we're going through a thing this week in which our capacity to practice face-to-face, as well as our ability to run live events, is now not a thing that we can do. And so this puts everyone in a position where all of a sudden now we've got to think about, so how can we deliver things online instead that previously that we might have been offering face-to-face. How do we manage to straddle both space? How do we manage to successfully transfer what wisdom and what services we've had in the face-to-face space? What's relevant that you offer within that that's still relevant that you could potentially offer in webinars or that you can offer in group programs? This is all about that today. What I wanted to take you through is essentially 12 steps of just simple things like business setup things, just as a reminder as to how you do that. Why? Because at times like this affects our basic, it sends us into survive, right? If your income and your financial security and everything is suddenly called into question, then all of a sudden we go into this reptilian brain fear place and we get overwhelmed and stressed before we kind of then move through that, manage our fear, manage our state, and then come out the other side where we can do something practical, right? So what I wanted to do today is go over the system, just to make it really simple again. So as you've got like basically a checklist of 12 things of, oh, hey, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I have to do right now in order to get this set up online. As well as, before we even do that, I just wanted to provide an opportunity as well for us to just connect. And as I'm going to explain to you in this, two of the most important questions that we ask before we do anything in terms of launching anything and helping right now are just asking our audience, hey, how are you? How are you going right now? And what do you need? How can I help? It's actually 3 questions, but how are you? What do you need? How can I help you right now before we actually get into, whatever the genius is that we want to offer? So that's what I want to ask you first as well, to be consistent with what I'm teaching here today. Seems kind of essential that, I offer that possibility. So, okay, so now I'm just going to share my screen with you and we're just going to go through these steps. Cool. So that's why we're here. And we just went through a little bit of why. Why is this really important at the moment? The irony about right now, with so many of you offering services that relate to coaching and wellness and well-being and supporting people through relationships and supporting people through business transitions and supporting people through so many things, is that now is the time where you're needed more than ever. And yet we have to stay in a little room or a few rooms in our houses right now. And how challenging is that right now? Because it's like life says, here's your time, here's your needed, here is literally the purpose you were born for right now. And yet, tricky circumstance right now, you're going to have to do it from the space and the confines of your home or wherever you're at right now. So that's tricky, because you've got this thing of, it's absolutely time for each one of us while we're going through it right now. It's also time, after we've processed that, there's never been a more important time where we're needed, right? This is the time for us to step up right now. But it's just challenging that, and I know for many, the initial response is freak out, because you're like, well, I've been talking to lots of you who are saying, I'm so dependent upon, I'm so used to being able to go into my space. And what I do is I massage people for a living. I talk to people face to face. That's where my magic is. This is what I do. What do I do now? All of a sudden, wellness centers aren't allowed to be open. Allied health people who are single physiotherapists, for example, the other day they said they can be open, but then there's this ambiguity because so many of them are in like centers as well. And how does that work? So we're trying to navigate all this complexity, which is causing all this stress. And it's tricky because we've got to find that balance between managing us, but then getting out there. And absolutely right now in the online space, as it's been for a while, like many of you who know me will know that for as long as I've been around the last few years, that many of you have known me. I mean, I'd been mentoring and supporting practitioners in making this exact transition under a far more ideal set of circumstances to get online, right? To get into online business and to start moving some things to an online space. So this is proving to be a little bit of a push forward for some of us at times where, you know, we might have gone, oh, you know, I'll do that online thing later. I know some of my close friends and colleagues, I mean, they're in that boat. They were like, oh, I'm going to do this thing with my online group in 6 months from now, or I'll do it next year and I've got this plan. And it's just changed all the plans right now, hasn't it? So it's important that we get up there and do it now. Hence why this 12 steps today that I'm talking to you about. So that's just a brief summary. I'm actually going to send you and drop into the comments a list of them afterwards for you. So don't worry about trying to memorize them or write them all down right now. You will get a copy of them later. Don't stress. I'll put it on Facebook underneath, and I'll put it with the Zoom links and anywhere I post this as well. So don't worry about trying to write them all down. Just know that we're about to go through them. Hoping you're not getting too much of the road noise outside, because it's certainly people are dealing with some of their stuff on that intersection right now. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Okay, so our 12 steps. So now, for some of you, this won't be a new exploration, yeah? Because doesn't matter who your business coach is, where they are, or who your marketing person is, or where we come from. The thing we have in common is that, you know, the majority of us tend to talk about this one with you at some point, right? What is it that you know? That's one of the first things that we need to get down to in terms of your professional background, in terms of your training. What are the subjects that you've been trained in? What are the actual modalities that you've been trained in? And from our life experience, what is it that you've come to know about? So the first thing first of all steps within this is it gives us a chance to revisit that particular list. Or if you haven't actually ever made a list of those things, this is where we get started right now, is on going back to that list and starting to think about exactly those things. So if I was to make a list of all the things that I know about, that I can teach and that I can help people with, what do they happen to be right now? So there's an activity for you. I would love to, we could unpack a whole webinar on this, and certainly in programs past we do whole sections and we do whole parts of days on even just this part alone, but I'm not going to start unpacking it all individually with you right now here, so much as my intention is that we will continue this over the next few weeks. And if you have any questions or you want to touch in with me to do some of that work privately rather than in a group setting, feel free to. So much as this is just the prompt, the reminder, right, that we need to do that re-exploration right now of what is it that you know about that you can potentially offer online. Because it may be for some of you that the things that you do, like massage, for example, you can't do it face-to-face right now, but is there some version of that transfers to a form that you can either teach people online, take them through a process, like a guided process, to say, hey, here is a self-soothing technique you can do, here is a pressure release technique you can do by yourself. You know, it's just a couple of examples. Is there little things like that you know can be transferred to programs or online, but it's just about making that list for you, right? And to know what those things are for you. So yeah, what is it that you know about that you can talk about, essentially? Time to make a list of those things. And then from that list of things, then we have to summarize, so what of those are actually going to apply in the online space, that it's actually possible for me to offer that online. So in that respect, of the many possibilities, it comes down to making a decision about what are you going to offer. And it might be, look, part of the thing around thought leadership and building you up as an expert in life, this is sort of a little bit counterintuitive, because the long-term goal of that is to have you focusing down into no, I only do this specific thing. This is my area of expertise, right? But the irony is of times like this, or the paradoxical nature, because people are all stressed and overwhelmed right now, when people are in that state, we have to start with their basic needs, right? You have to bring it back to just their security and helping them feel safe before you can ever do anything else. So that brings it back to really checking in around what it is that they need right now and where they're at, and how you can match the topics that you know about to actually match up with what they need right now. You might have to ask a few questions of your audience about that before you can make sense of what that is. However, what we need to do is need to pick then from your list of expertise what subjects that you know about, what types of support that you offer are actually relevant in this moment right now, that you can now say, okay, that's what I'm going to go with. That's the thing I'm going to focus on. Second to that, second point down within this, how are you going to offer that? And then you've just got to think about, so in what form would it be best to offer this? Could I say something about this in the online equivalent of speaking, where I do an educational webinar with a slideshow where I talk about why this particular thing is a problem, why it's needed, why I work in this, and then go into the some information about how you would work through that or how you would solve that problem. So it could be that it's that. It could be that you want to facilitate a group session online for some people that's more like a support circle. And it will be live and interactive in terms of you guide them through a process and you'd be mediating that process. Or maybe it might be that you want to offer some one-on-one sessions. Maybe that's the best place, is to offer in a private session, but just transfer it to an online environment where you offer it on a either like a FaceTime window or something like Zoom, but you use your private meeting room as opposed to doing what I'm doing right now, where we're offering a webinar space, right? So does that make sense? So then it's about, the second thing is about picking how you're going to actually deliver it, in what form online, because we have multiple ways you can deliver it online. And to who? Who's it relevant for? Is it still your existing clients and the existing market that you've been serving, if you've already defined who they are? Is it someone else that might be relevant to this as well? So it's important to make a decision around that, because for us to communicate clearly about anything, we need to have an idea who we're talking to and what we're talking to them about, so that what words we pick and what questions we ask actually become really targeted and clear and relevant to them, right? It's never been more important than on the online space to have clarity around what it is that who it is that you're talking to and what it is that you're offering, right? This is the gift of this experience, is that it's going to make us all have to get so much clearer in how we communicate, me included, because I can be a real detail person as well as I can switch between bigger picture, but I inherently, my natural tendency has always been, be it the therapist in me or whatever, my tendency is always then I have to pull it out of the detail and simplify it, right? So that's part of the lesson of right now, is doing that. Okay, so in terms of, like I said with when you are talking to your audience right now, one of the most important things, like I said, because they're overwhelmed right now, and because they're not, and people are freaking out about money right now, whether they're really successful in business and their event business has just been shut down, or they're a professional speaker and their business of face-to-face has just suddenly been shut down, one of their major income sources, and they now have to work online. Or if you run face-to-face school services for any number of training organizations, I mean, everybody's impacted by this, right? So everybody's stressed. It doesn't matter how successful and long established you are, or whether you're 5 minutes established in this and just build up your massage practice, everybody's being impacted. So the one thing myself and some colleagues have been saying this week is, make sure you start with where they are before you start talking about how your copy, your message, and how your offering that you're going to offer is going to help things, right? Don't just message them and sell to them straight up right now, because they will hate you for it because everybody just needs us to be there for them right now. Our biggest job is to listen and just ask these ask these few questions. How can I help you right now? What do you need? Where are you at? People need to know that you care before they see that you have an agenda right now, that you want something from them, because it's just basic human psychology, right? Nobody wants to have people taking from you and coming after you and feeling like people are trying to vampire you while you're in the middle of a crisis. It's not a good feeling. Nobody likes that feeling. So this is why we have to bring it back first and foremost to where they're at. And then as we talk to them about it in our messaging, then illustrate that as to how you can help. So why is the thing that you're offering, is it relevant? Why is it relevant for them? Why is it appropriate that you be offering that? And why right now of all time? So those were always the why this, why you, why now. I'd been taught by all those my past mentors, as those are the essential questions that you want to get down to. But we have to be very strategic right now and sensitive in how we talk to people, in that you actually need to start with where they're at, and don't offer anything unless it happens to be relevant, and be really sensitive to the fact that when you do offer something, they may or may not be able to afford it right now. So it may or may not completely change how we offer payment structures right now. And we need to be really sensitive to that as well, because again, people's response right now, if you ask them for money, may well just be bugger off. How dare you right now in the middle of my thing? How dare you exploit me? How dare you exploit everyone? And we need to be sensitive to that group of people as well. Yeah, so it is such a good time to just, focus on your people before you start focusing on ultimately linking to your offering of why it's relevant, why them, why you, and why now. Okay, platforms. So what online platforms are you going to use to deliver this particular thing that you're offering? So if it was an online community talking session, for example, one of my colleagues who's about to jump on is just saying she's just going out. So just, she's rather important because I've got a slide of hers coming up. So apologies, I'm just making sure she's okay. She's got to go out for a bit and she's coming back. She'll be fine. So let's keep going. Platforms. So what platforms are you delivering to within so for example, if you had a support circle and you want to do it for a group, exactly what we're using right now, Zoom might be perfect, or exactly what else we're using right now, Facebook Live might be perfect. But you might also like to have a group that goes with that. So you might need Facebook or LinkedIn to create an online group to be able to link that with, right? So what platforms are you going to need for delivery right now? That's one of the things we just need to remember and just plan for that. There are plenty that your coaches and everyone out there will give you. I'm sure there are going to be 50 million webinars right now with a zillion coaches jumping into the industry and leaders jumping into the industry, go, no, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. My biggest advice to you is pick one way and stick with it right now, because you'll just lose momentum. If you try and do everybody's at once and you have too many mentors in the kitchen at once, it just kills your momentum, because everybody's got a slightly different way of doing it. So the most important thing about platforms right now that you're delivering to or from is to just pick them and stick to them. Yeah, and happy to help you work out which ones are right for you depending on what your particular offering will be. Communication. So you're no doubt already doing a lot of this in your business already, right? But this is just the reminder. This is the 12 steps that are just the reminder as to this stuff's still relevant online. And for online things, we need a means of getting in touch with your clients that's online, right? So obvious, I know. You can still call them, you can still text them, you can still email them, and you may or may not like to set up a specific mailing list within your MailChimp if you have something like Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft. Yes, just trying to remember. There's Keep now as well. Things have changed names. So it's about just being clear, what channel are you going to use to communicate through for this right now? And it may also involve your social media messaging functions, but just that's the minimum of what you're going to need, right? If you have an email address and you have a mailing list software, if you want to do mail outs, that's like the simplest thing. You could have a CRM program as well. All you need is your email. If we keep it ridiculously simple right now, that's the simplest thing that you need, right? So we want to keep it as simple as possible. And the things I'm going to give you, I'm actually going to give you a checklist at the end, which has got a list of all the equipment you could potentially use as a bare minimum right now. Like I said, because, you know, there'll be a million different coaches that want to teach you about how to use all of them. That's great, and that's a long-term goal, but right now I'm just trying to give you the simplest list of ones as a minimum to show you that it's easier than you might think or it might feel right now to just get on and get moving, right? With these set of tools that I'm giving you, you can do it with them and for minimal cost. So, webinars. So a lot of things that we offer online. If you don't already have a Teachable platform or a Kajabi platform or something like that, which in case you're not aware, that's an online education program where you might have bought people's programs already, had to log into them, and that's where they offer all their training modules. That's ahead of where you're at right now. The simplest thing that you need right now, like that you could just be running things with, is a webinar program and somewhere to store the files that you're going to give to them, right? So like a Dropbox or Google Drive or somewhere that you can transfer files to. At the absolute barest minimum, you can email them, Dropbox them, or you can actually transfer any data, any files into the webinar programs themselves. But just to have like a simple space, whether it's either delivering in webinars or you're doing in Facebook Lives, for example, like you can deliver your content, you can deliver a group just within there. So it's just about, again, making a decision about which platform works for you. We're using Zoom right now. I love Zoom. It's simple, it's easily, you can have a free version which lasts, you can get onto 45 minutes, you can be on there and you can have, I think you can have still up to 100 people on the free one. This is the next level above the free one. This is a professional one, and on that you can also potentially have a webinar group room and have up to 100 people. You can record your webinars as well, and that may be an important thing because you might want to record what you're doing, so then you can then use it later. Yeah, but the most important thing is that you get a webinar platform. Pick a platform. So where are you going to deliver some of your, either your online sessions or whether they're one-on-one or your group sessions? What webinar platform are you going to offer them through? Community. This kind of links into exactly what I was just saying. So do you need a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group to go with it? Will that help? And it might be a separate one just for the program to your main group that you just share content with, right? Maybe it's a separate group to that you start just for the participants of this particular program that you're launching today. Or so say you did a challenge, then again, it's just a group just for those participants specifically who've signed on to do this thing and agreed to do this thing with you, right? So which platform would you need if you want to create a community, and what platform are you going to create it on? If you need it. You may not want it as well, but it's very handy. Most of the programs that I've run where we've done big online programs, we always have one, whether it's Facebook community, and you might in time have a separate software for that as well. Again, that's down the track. The simplest way you can do it right now is just with a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, and just have your people in there. Yeah, your program participants. Keep it simple. Payment. So no doubt, if you're seeing clients, you probably already have some form of payment system set up to take payments. If you were face-to-face, you might have had an EFTPOS machine linked to a bank account, linked to a MYOB or a Xero or a Clinico type practice management software or something like that, or maybe the receptionist kindly taking care of all that for you. Or maybe you have some version of that at home that you're running yourself. Maybe you were using PayPal or Stripe or eWay already online, and you have some things set up already. But this is just simply revisiting now in terms of your payment structure for this. So do you need to make any changes to that to be able to set up to work online? Again, at the simplest level, you can set up a PayPal account, Stripe account. Square does payments as well, don't they? They have one as well. So any of those type of ones, or eWay, like a lot of the fees are based on your transactions. It's only when you actually receive money from someone that then they take a percentage out of it. So there doesn't have to be huge amounts of money to set up those if you don't already have them set up right now. I'm trying to speak to, I know I've got a range of people who are quite tech savvy already and quite a long way ahead, as well as I'm speaking to some of my practitioner groups that I know this stuff freaks you out like crazy even more because it's tech, tech, tech. And you're like, no, not more tech. I can't deal with more tech. And now it's my idea of hell because all I can do is tech right now. I understand. I know it's complex. So remember, if you need to ask me questions, feel free to drop in comments. Feel free to message me privately afterwards. We're just going through the 12 steps just as an overview in a hurry here. But at the end, you can ask some questions, and or if there's anything additional that you'd like to talk about just to me, separate to all this, then feel free to just reach out to me, yeah? I don't want you to feel overwhelmed like, you can't keep up or it's too much because, we're going through just the 12 steps today. I just want to put the overview on the table for you so great, that's the list of things that I get to do, and then you can start implementing them over time, right? So showing you the picture of the mountain, but then we just chunk down each step, each little 100 meters that you walk at a time, which will be each step. As you set that up, then we just bring it back to keeping it simple, yeah? Just do one thing at a time. So, yeah, take a breather. Just take a deep breath. I'm with you, and I'm here to help you because, this is what I did for the last few years. It's just I've been focusing a little bit more on leaders and speakers right now, but funnily enough, that, is part of my genius and my expertise, but it's not necessarily entirely what the world needs immediately right now. So happy to help out with this as well. Okay, so payment. That will help with that. Paperwork. So you likely, if you don't, probably might be an idea to set this up or have someone set this up for you. But you will no doubt have a set of forms probably that you use to collect clients' information when you see them, to collect potentially payment information, terms and conditions. For many of you, depending on what form of practitioner you are, you will have a set of terms and conditions specific to your specific business around what the expectations are of you working together, all of that kind of stuff, right? We've all got that, but this is the reminder step to remind you what changes do I need to make to that right now relative to me offering online? Do you need to just add an extra clause in there somewhere about, for example, people being in the same space with each other in a group space on a webinar and respecting each other's intellectual property or privacy? For example, maybe if they're going to be disclosing things together, you need to add something in protecting their privacy and just making sure that everybody agrees to respect the privacy of the other people in the group and they're signing to that. Just little things like that, what are the T's and C's that you might need to add right now additionally to make sure that you're just covered and providing some boundaries and a safe space online. Feel free to, for those of you who are in my Facebook, you can look at the Women Leaders and Public Speakers group at some of the rules that are on there, because I altered some of them specifically for wellness practice related to just covering the legalities of it, right? Self-responsibility and just making sure we respect privacy and a few things like that. So there's a few examples on there if you want to check it out of just some of the things that you might also like to think about relative to the online space. I'm sure there will be no shortage of legal brains that are online in groups right now that you can probably actually seek some advice from as well. But It's just a reminder to think about, do I need to add something extra or create an extra set of terms and conditions for my online offerings right now? And in what form can you deliver that to people? There are online programs that you can use for this, so as they can just go straight to it and sign it online. There's online sign-up forms as well. There's programs that offer that. You will most of the time have to pay something for that. The only thing to be just mindful of with sign-up forms when you're doing this online instead, when you're transferring them, is privacy of people's data. Yeah, and protecting people's payment information and protecting people's information in general. So if you're going to use some of the softwares, for example, you might just want to make sure that they're secure. For example, the Google Forms bit isn't necessarily that secure, I think, from memory. It's one way you can get by in a bind, but some people who are a bit techie will not give you information that way because they're like, no, it's not nearly locked down enough. So just be mindful right now of, and you may also, if you have someone who works on you with your website already, it might be just as simple as, talking to them about, can you put a version on your website right now instead? But yeah, let's just be mindful of what do you need in terms of an online sign-up form right now? And do you need to make any changes in terms of that? And what terms and conditions do you need to change? Number 10, thinking about your funnel and your online sequence. Again, this is another one that, let me just double check. Apologies, there's somebody who's just. Hi to you, Christine Long. You're over on Facebook right now. I'm in Zoom right now, so I can't necessarily see that you're there, but on my phone, I can see that you're there. So hi, babe. And I agree, it's time for a catch up, for sure. We're talking about funnels right now, and we're talking about the fact that many of you will have worked with online coaches already who've talked to you about this process, right? Of knowing what the map is of what sequence of offerings you're going to take your clients through, yeah? So you had some face-to-face ones, which whether we often think about it or not, there's a sequence for that, right? Somehow they came to you, somehow they found you, and then you offered them something. Maybe they messaged your email and you offered to call them, and you set up a step where they could have a quick free 15-minute chat with you, up to 15-minute chat or something like that, right? So then that's the next step of your sequence. And then you had your face-to-face sessions, for example, that they came and saw you one-on-one, or maybe they came to a workshop. So that's like this sessions, workshop, different streams, right? And then you build out your whole sequence of what are the processes, what's the process that they follow over time when they work with you, yeah? So this is just a revisit of that right now, as to think about in terms of the problems that you used to solve face-to-face, as you move it to an online format, is the structure, is the process of offerings they're going to go through, is it the same? Does it follow a similar journey and format, or do you need to now develop something slightly different with your new set of offerings? How can you make it a change so as you keep working through what they're going through right now with them? Yeah, does that make sense? I just want to keep it simple in terms of, again, we could run a whole webinar on just this alone and a whole set of programs on this alone. If you've got some live examples, happy to workshop them with you in the Q&A at the end. Otherwise, we just might sort of try and keep this one fairly simple, move on to the next ones. So yeah, it's just about, again, making that simple map of the journey of where you're going to go with them, and deciding after the first thing that you're going to offer online, if it's a group session, for example, that you're going to offer a little a speaking piece, educating people about a particular problem, or if it's a piece with a Q&A that you're asking them about stuff that they're going through right now. It's like, what's your next step after that? It's making a decision around that. So as rather than just showing up, starting them in a process and then leaving them hanging at the end of it going, well, what am I going to do now? You've got a clear idea when you come to it, right? Of, okay, so I'm offering this session, and as a follow-on from this session, I will either offer them a one-on-one consult in Zoom, or I will offer them an online workshop that we're going to do to keep working on the next phase of this, for example, right? So especially right now, it's really, while people are stressed out, it's more clear, it's more important than ever that we have a next step organized so we don't start them on something and leave them hanging. So that's why this step. Have a look at your funnel again and think about what your next step is beyond what the first thing is that you're going to offer. How can you keep them engaged with you right now? That's what this is all about. Okay, I just drop this back in here. I'm not sure if you can see the top of this, but I'm just going to, while we're at it, I'm just going to, if I can go back to, where's my mouse gone? I'll do it in a second. I'm going to transfer you a copy of this file because, like I said before, this was like a, I've got a summary for you of, at a bare minimum, what programs, equipment, software you might need to run online. Yeah, because I just wanted to, again, make it simple so as you can check, do I have these things? So as it's not like, oh my God, what do I need to go get to like transfer online right now? This is what you need to transfer online right now. And I went one step further last night and I went and researched all the current pricing on the majority of these. Most of these pricings are in Australian dollars, not in US dollars. A couple of them where it says so are in US dollars. But yeah, it just gives you an idea of just the basic cost. If you haven't already been thinking about how to offer things online and you're wondering right now because income's just become tight, then I just wanted to give you a basic idea of the bare minimum that you can get online and start offering things for right now. Some of these, like for example, I've included laptop and PC in here because I've got mine on a payment plan that's literally about to expire right now, right? And the entire time that payment plan's been on $105 per month, and it's included all my programs on my MacBook that are on there. So I included that. Some of you may already have some equipment items like this already paid for outright, and you don't need to worry about things like that or include them in your pricing. But just as a simple estimate, like I went through yesterday, just did the basic free options or the minimum options that you got to pay. And this breaks down to around about $315 to $350 per month, depending on what you're doing. And if you were to break that back down into practitioner sessions, for example, because I know a lot of people offer sessions around $60 to $80 per hour of session traditionally, like that breaks down to $180, a bit less than $180 client a week, right, to cover these expenses. So just to put it in perspective, that you don't necessarily, to get started, need to take out a $50,000 loan or anything right now. If you want to do marketing down the track, for sure, if you want to do paid ads, you're going to need more money. At the bare minimum, you don't need that right now. You need the network of people that you already know, that you're engaged with well, and your existing clients. And if you adapt to being able to offer them something else right now that they need and they can afford, if you keep working with them on that, you may be able to find a way through that. That doesn't mean that you have to now stop offering things and offer everything for free and have to bring in worry about bringing in huge amounts of money for marketing budgets for Facebook ads or any form of advertising on any platforms. You can still do this the old-fashioned way, face-to-face with Messenger, with your phone, with phone numbers and ringing people, yeah? And starting with just checking in how they are. So that's what I just wanted to, because there's a lot of, I know people in the community have said their biggest concern has been, oh, I did all these online programs this last few years and it was never represented to me that I was going to have to pay $75,000 a year to do all of this, blah, blah, blah. And I know it seems huge, right? At times when you get into some of these and all of a sudden you're asking to shift from the mindset in an online business model of operating from this tiny little solo practitioner to operating like a 7-figure business model that has at least 3, if not 10 staff, right? So it's a bit of a mindset shift, but I just want to keep it simple for you right now. If you're a sole trader and you're just jumping on to offer an online business, don't worry about that level of complexity right now. Just let all of that go. Let all of that big program stuff go. For sure, hold it as your bigger vision at the top of the mountain later. But all you need at the most basic level right now to get back online is just this minimal amount of stuff, right? And then everything else, like the bottom, for example, on this list, I said things like later, later, later at the bottom. Like you can, because things like your website, for example, it's always your last priority because nobody looks at it. I mean, they look at it to check that you exist, but they're looking at your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and a million things first, right? So some of those things you don't necessarily need yet. Teachable, online learning platforms in Kajabi, you don't necessarily need to start with that right now because you can just transfer to offering people sessions online, private sessions, simply instead, yeah, without having to get caught up in, oh my God, I've got to design a whole 12 module online program. I've got to record all the videos. I've got to record all the content. I've got to do all the PDFs. I've got to do I know, right? That's 3 years worth of program stuff that a lot of the gurus are telling you to do. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying let that go. I'm just saying if we're dealing with keeping it simple in a crisis right now, all you need is to just transfer online and to just, at minimum, offer a workshop that's paid or offer sessions that are paid. It can be that simple. And you can transfer your existing knowledge to doing that very simply. Yeah, it doesn't have to be way complex right now. So I'm just looking for ways to just make it simpler for you right now. Yeah, so I'll just chuck that back in again in a second. Final thing within, one of the final things within your process, once you've offered something, or once you've, even if it's you've run a couple of Facebook Lives in a group, or you've run a webinar, or whatever it is, you might want to know, how did that work for them? Did it help them address the problem? Did they think there was anything that needs adding? In the early stages of an offering, it's really important to actually be open to feedback, but be critical also about the quality of feedback that you get. Yeah, because there may be examples going back a while back to an event I ran a while back. For example, there was some brilliant feedback about what people needed in the next workshop, and I was like, brilliant, that's great. There were some people who attended, got 3 world-leading experts worth of refined answers for at least 30 minutes worth of individual attention. They got world-leading expertise and then told me at the end of it that the whole thing needed work and wasn't enough yet, and they didn't get much out of it. And, you know, to be part of me at that point was like gobsmacked, because I'm like, wow, 3 like leading brains, and you got nothing out of that? We just taught you how to be the best speaker on the planet, and like we just taught you all the stuff and you didn't get anything out of that. So sometimes you got to be discerning about feedback, right? One of my mentors was speaking about that recently. He was blogging, he shared an old article about that, and that's entirely valid. Sometimes you have to be careful about listening to the wrong feedback. But it's also critical in the early stages of developing a new program to actually ask for feedback, so that you know that it actually hits the mark, yeah, and does what it should in terms of helping give people value and helping them solve their problems. So very important in the early phages, viruses, phages, bacteria. I don't know, we're still in Corona headspace. Let's not forget that. Feedback process, right? So what is going to be your feedback process? Are you going to have a form? Are you going to have an online form? How are you going to do your feedback process? Are you going to have a feedback form only, or are you going to check in with them maybe in the few days after you run a workshop and just ring in and be like, so, hey, how'd you go? How'd you go after that? How'd you find that? And you can ask them like a little bit of, you can get, without being like hugely direct about it, you can sort of find out there, right? Like, how was it? Did they like it? Do they need anything? You can also get someone on your behalf to do that stuff. Like, for example, with some of the big organizations I've worked with, sometimes it wasn't the speakers that ran an event that do those phone calls. Sometimes it was me doing those phone calls as head mentor, or me as business manager, client relationship manager, doing those calls on someone's behalf, or event manager doing those phone calls just to check in with them, right? To see, how was that for you? Did you need anything? Do you have any feedback? Also, any feedback process that you do is an opportunity, because when you're growing anything online, with the one exception here where you need to be mindful of client privacy and confidentiality, where you are legally required to respect that, worries me that far too much online now, everybody's just like, oh, I just spoke to this client today, when they're writing about a post and they're doing video. I just spoke to this client and they talked about this and they did this. And the counselor in me is going, my God, did all of you get permission to actually say that? Because that's a breach of privacy law right there, right? If they didn't, and it's just happening en masse and everybody's doing it. And this thing's getting really lax with video as well. Everybody's walking around filming everything, not asking anyone permission. And we're getting bad with boundaries in society. So any time that you're going to use anything for testimonial purposes, for example, or to further market your program in future, really important to get permission, but important to build into your feedback process some idea of how you're going to collect testimonials as well. Yeah. So could it be, there are video programs that you can use to do this, but is that you send them a form and you include the testimonial part in there? I would suggest to you that just doing a form, while if you do an anonymous survey link, like a SurveyMonkey link or something, may provide some anonymity. Once people are out of the space and beyond the event, because we're so busy now, it is notoriously hard to get people to fill out a form after the event once you've left. If you can get them to do it while they're still in the end of an event, that is so much better. So you might be able to, in a Zoom webinar like this, you can chuck it in at the end and say, hey, could you do this for me? Zoom also has this cool function now where, see that little polling link in there? I don't know if you can see that icon for that. You can actually ask them at the end what they think and get them to fill it out while you're in the webinar. So there's ways like this that you can do it in process, yeah? Or, like I said, great way you can do it is to check in with them afterwards. Have someone call them and check in, and you just outright ask them, hey, would you be willing to, if you got lots out of it, if they got lots out of it, would you be willing to write me a testimonial or do a video testimonial for this? As it stands now, we may need to use some of those online video testimonial programs to get them, or at bare minimum, all they need is a phone or a laptop, so as they can record themselves and then send you a quick video that you can use, yeah? But yeah, very important to have that step and that process as well as your complete the loop thing, so as you can program and product improve on what you're doing and get your testimonials where it's appropriate. Totally understand, because I came from a counselling background, that sometimes this is why you don't see more of what I've done in the world plastered all over social media, because there are workshops that I did in years past and speaking pieces that I did that were way too close to home, way too personal. There was like, I literally wrote to websites to festivals that I ran them up at times and said, can you please not share those photos from that thing, because it's a bit of a privacy thing for me right now. I think that was a really intimate space, and I don't think it's appropriate unless I've talked back with those women now to have that on there without their permission, so that's why you haven't seen some more of my stuff. But it's just a reminder, that's a very extreme example of mine, but like for some of you, it's just be mindful of that. There may be a way that you have to be sensitive about doing testimonials as well, right? It's just to be mindful of that. Okay. So you've got to do your feedback and your testimonial process and your planning before you put something out there live. But by the time you actually are ready, you have your thing that you're going to offer, you have the basic outline of it ready to go, and you're ready to offer the first version of it. Again, now it comes to marketing it and sharing it, right? So remember those crucial, important things I said to you earlier right now about we have to completely change our approach to marketing right now and not necessarily just offer all these things, these huge paid programs direct up front anymore. It's really important to check in with people first. Check, how are you right now? What do you need? What can I help you with? Before you get on to selling something, right? Because you don't want to look like you're just selling without caring right now. Really important to just re-preface that here. But what you want to do for your marketing, again, this is the stuff you know, but we're just recapping it just so as you've got a list of what to do right now. So you can create a list of individuals who are your existing clients who you think it might be relevant to. This is especially relevant right now because you might be thinking already, okay, so who in my clients is the most vulnerable right now? Who's going to be going through the most stuff? Who needs me right now? So that can be a really easy list of people to just, what I was doing last week is I'm trying to get through a big list right now, but I just started on just messaging people and just going, how are you at? How are you? Where are you at? Do you need anything? I'm here for you, right? As your very first step. Yeah, but having that list of individuals that you do that with, that's important. So there might be organizations right now that your thing is relevant to. Perhaps you've just come up with the counseling thing that's really relevant to COVID people who are experiencing it or who've already tested positive for it and had to go into medical isolation, self-isolation because of it. So maybe you offered something around that, and maybe it's relevant to specific organizations. So maybe you might want to make a list of organizations that you're going to share it with. What channels can you share it to? So maybe, for example, there are Facebook groups that this is relevant for. Again, maybe you have to check in with some admins of groups around that. But again, this is making a list of, so what channels could I share it to? What professional associations or organizations might also be interested in something like this? Add them to your list. And if there's somebody that you can potentially partner with at all, at any point, then this may be the time. Yeah, this may be the time to reach out. And just check, is there, especially if you have a complementary thing that can be offered as a part of supporting people in tandem right now, like how can you work with each other? Can you work with each other's groups of clients to, share each other to each other's lists to get more exposure, to get your thing out there to where it's needed, right? It's part of the thing right now. It's like we just need, for your things that you have right now, like I said, this is the most important time where they're ever going to be needed, right? So it's just thinking about who you can talk to help, share those things and get them out there. And us working together like that to be of service. Yeah. Cool. So let me just check back over if we have anyone else who's jumped on as well. And any additional participants just sitting on Facebook at the moment or anywhere else. No, not on there just now. Okay, let me just check here. Just going to pause on the screen share for a second. So I was just going to say to you as well, this is literally I just thought I'd chuck this in here just as a reminder that if you have any questions that we haven't resolved on here because you jump onto this after the fact, right? If you come into this after the webinar's finished and the live's finished and you're like, man, I've got so many questions beyond this now, like you can reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me and we can have a quick chat without you necessarily having to like think about sessions or anything like that. If it's a quick question, like I have a up to 15 minute Zoom call just for that, for example. Yeah. So if it's a quick thing, you can message me or we can just have that ahead of, I'm not even interested in selling programs and everything right now. My main thing is just to get information out to you guys right now to help you get through this because I just want to see you get up and get out there. There's Simon Sinek shared this beautiful little meme yesterday that was about there's being of service, but then there's being of service. And it's like when you think you're being of service because I've got this great, amazing program and everybody should buy it. And I'm going to share it with everyone right now because it's going to help so many people. Yeah. So for example, I had one of those I was about to launch around speaking and leadership for the year. And it's a whole great program. It also happens to not be the thing that people need in this exact moment because it was about live events. It's about face-to-face. It's about helping you work through your stuff, about being in a room in front of men or women who trigger your stuff face-to-face. So bang, beautiful, how do I be of service? Bang, goes on hold for 5 seconds on that particular project. But then, you know, here's me today running a webinar because I saw that this is needed, right? And I just wanted to help. So it's just coming back to what's the way that you can really sincerely help right now. Yeah. And so that's why I've just offered you this as another part of that. I also just popped in. Zarina, babe, are you here at the moment? Are you on with us at the moment? Are you still out and about dealing with emergencies? Emergencies. I've just popped in Zarina's details as well. You might know her as, you've probably seen her work around. If you've ever worked with a high-level coach in this country or a speaker, you've probably seen her photographs and you've probably seen her work because she's pretty amazing. And she knows a whole lot about speakers branding and leaders branding. And I'm just trying to get it. I hope you can actually see what I can see right now. Yeah, because she's so about visibility and helping you stand out right now. And there could not be a more important time where it's more important for leaders and speakers to be able to get their visibility and their ability to stand out right now. And to be able to, like, I think she's just got this beautiful, unique gift where she actually, you know, she'll look at you, she'll do a brand audit and an audit of your materials right now, right? And she'll tell you where you aren't actually showing up online in that. And where it's like the most authentic essence of you and the biggest version of you. It's like, yeah, but that's not, we need to add something extra to that because there's a bit of you missing within that. She's really great at just bringing out in your images and your marketing just the absolute best of you and helping you stand out in that respect. So popped in her details because we're going to be doing some work together, and we're going to probably very shortly you will see some more webinars that we're going to pop up together to help you. But I just wanted to draw your attention to her presence today, right? Because she's here to help you as well. And she's offering some free branding audit sessions right now as well. So you can pick her brain, and you can also get her to check over your stuff and help you with the side of things that relate to, okay, so what do I also need to have set up online right now so as my branding is consistent, right? So as your LinkedIn and your Facebook and your website or whatever are basically all saying the same thing and look pretty and consistent, that's a part of what she can help with as well. So between us both, we are here for you and we want to help. So I just popped her in there as well. That's me sitting at my co-working space, which I can no longer work at right now for the foreseeable future because I am currently in non-COVID related, because I do not have COVID, but I'm immunocompromised right now, social isolation. So I'm missing that space right now too, Now, do we have, right now, anyone? Let me just stop this screen share for a second. Oh, hello. Hi there again. And I'm aware that some of you are still out and about. Some of you are managing kids right now. Some of you are going to watch this after the fact. You're going to see all of this after the fact. And it is entirely okay if you want to drop in comments where I post this afterwards, or you want to message me afterwards. Please feel free to keep the process moving after I've posted this. Feel free to, comment, drop in you know, how this is for you. Ask any questions. Let me know if there's anything you need. Anywho, thanks so much for joining me. Look forward to chatting to you soon and wishing you a wonderful weekend to come. Lots of love. Bye.